You're listening to episode number 39 of the podcast that does not deflate footballs.
Welcome to the Play Your Position podcast, where your story matters and we make it count. Here's your host, Mary Lou Kaser. Let's get started.
Kickoff, move the chains, and touchdowns. Welcome to the Play Your Position podcast, where we take amazing conversations straight into the end zone. I'm your host, Mary Lou Kaser, and this is the podcast that features conversations with and about people who show up and play full out each and every day. They are the people you admire: entrepreneurs, writers, artists, musicians, parents, teachers, athletes, adventurers, and their stories give us a glimpse into what it means to be human. My goal for each episode is to introduce you to fascinating new people, new ideas, and inspire you to keep playing full out in your life's work in order to make a difference. As always, details about each episode can be found over on the Shownotes page at my website, playyourpositionpodcast.com. Hello, everyone. We have got a great show in store for you today because of my guest, Kim Doyal. Kim, are you ready for kickoff?
I am always ready for kickoff. Let's do it.
Right on. Kim Doyal, otherwise known as the Wordpress Chick, is an entrepreneur, a coach, an author, a movie producer, and a speaker. She has built her lifestyle business using the platform of her choice, WordPress, through sheer determination and commitment. Widowed in 2003 with two small children, she was determined to build a business that allowed her to be at home while doing something she loved. She is totally self-taught in WordPress and has been making her living online for the past 6 years. Whether you are new to WordPress or consider yourself a more advanced user, Kim's brand building and online tips will make you more successful with your business. She is widely known for being authentic and connecting with her audience in a fun and informative way that will always keep you coming back for more. Kim works with entrepreneurs to build their online presence, connect with their ideal clients, and show up in a way that resonates with them. With a successful growing podcast and coaching program, she's able to work directly with entrepreneurs who believe in doing things their own way and in a way that resonates with them. Her motto is WordPress happiness made easy, and Kim will teach you her best tips on digital publishing, blogging, podcasting, WordPress, and making a living online. It's not about making a living, though, in the end, is it, Kim? It's about designing your life. So again, welcome to the show. You have something that I think is going to be very interesting for listeners of the Play Your Position podcast, because you are living the online lifestyle, and that is becoming more and more of something that people are attracted to. And yet you and I both know there are a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of bad information, and it's really, really important for people to be clear about what they're doing if that's the direction they're going to take. So I can't wait for you to dive into that. And I would love for you to start off and just share with us, typical game day, you're suited up, you take in the field. What is Kim Doyal doing on that day?
I love it. Well, depending on the week, I either take kids to school or the neighbors do. I hit the gym. I made a point of, I try not to schedule calls before 10 o'clock because that's just, I need to get that in for myself. And I work at home. I've got an office kind of studio now that I'm tweaking out. But yeah, I work for myself. A typical day for me is the first part of the day, I make a point of focusing on my content and my business because, I've got clients and different projects going on. And if I do that at the first part of my day, it's like the creative stuff's not going to happen. So one of my other mottos is no client work before noon. And I've got a team and whatnot. So everything's always going. It's not like I put it off, but that first part of the day is when I can really show up. And so that's a real firm kind of commitment that I've made to myself. And then the rest of the day, it kind of depends on what's going on. But I work for myself. So I'm either doing interviews, calls, creating content. I'm in a mastermind. I participate in those calls, social media. So it kind of runs the gamut. But if it's in the summer, I'll probably take a break in the afternoon and go float in the pool and read, or take a nap during the winter.
That is fantastic. And something that, again, people who have heard about making a living online, or I had a previous guest, Tracy M., who talked about the side hustle. She is working in corporate, but she's got a side hustle going on. You have actually completely moved away from working for somebody else, and your side hustle is actually a full-on hustle. And it gives you that freedom to take an afternoon and float in the pool or read a book or not have to start your client work until noon because you're taking care of your family first. And very conscious on your part, right? Very deliberate. When did you first know or recognize, Kim, that you were going to play this position as an online businesswoman?
Well, it was after it wasn't immediately after I lost my husband, but about within 5 years, because I was working full time. And again, my kids were 6 and 2. And so I was commuting and I was working, and I've always been one of those people that I knew there was something else I was supposed to do with my life. And I had, opened and owned a retail scrapbook store. And I owned that for a couple of years, like like 98 to 2000, so I always had this entrepreneurial drive, but when your life is turned upside down, it's kind of no holds barred. It's like, you know what? There's got to be a better way to move through the rest of my life other than working for somebody else. And I knew, I'm blessed that I've got great family and friends around me, but I'm like, I'm all these kids have. I refuse to be gone. And I was in retail management. That's no life. They're, I actually enjoy Christmas now. And so, but it's just, I made a commitment to myself that in 2008, because it's been 7 years now since I've been doing this full time, that I was going to make this work. I had no idea what it looked like. But again, I just knew there was a better way to move through the rest of my life. It's, when you talk about, it's not just about making a living. It's not like the quality of my life is phenomenal. It hit me the other day, or like a month ago, I was driving and I was like, God, I never have to request vacation time. Like I can just go. And it's funny, you would think after 7 years, that wouldn't be like this earth shattering thing. But in trying to plan a weekend away with my girlfriends, we're looking at the fall now, right? Because we all have kids and stuff. I'm like, well, God, I can go kind of whenever I want to go other than family commitments. And so it's that quality of life. I just made that conscious choice. And again, I didn't know what it looked like when I started, but I knew I wasn't going to let it go.
Isn't that really true about all of life, though? I think there's such an interesting dynamic that we are sold in school and then in our early careers that you can create this master plan, or that planning is always going to come to fruition. And I'm like you, I have found that it doesn't, that you can enter into something and you think you have a sense of it, but it ends up being completely different than what you imagined, or you walk into it like you, where there really was no roadmap. You were forging a brand new path. You didn't have a parent or a sibling or anybody that had said, here you go, Kim, here's the blueprint. Now go do this. You had to figure it out yourself, which I think for any new venture is the truth. If we make a decision to follow a path and play a new position, we know there's going to be elements that are unknown, that are going to be scary, that are going to fill us with doubt. And thank goodness, though, that we can turn to or find coaches and mentors along the way. They may not be there at the beginning, but I guarantee you, if you are committed to a certain path, you are going to find them. And so I would love for you to share with listeners who has been an instrumental coach and or mentor to you, Kim, on this journey the last 7 years.
Without a doubt, Adam Spiel. And I've been in what's now become Empire Mastermind, and initially started just as the Adam Spiel Mastermind. But Adam and I met at a conference 6 years ago, probably. And we met, and he's just one of those quality human beings, you just connect with. He's nice, he's friendly, total family guy. And we just stayed in touch. And when he was starting out at that point, his business, he was kind of doing hosting and web stuff too. He is completely just blown up. And I did an interview with him on my show called From 6 Figures in Debt to 6 Figures a Month. And he is walking the walk every day. But what has so inspired me is, there's something really powerful about knowing somebody at point A and then seeing them, at point T practically, it's like, it's just to see his growth. And what is so great about Adam is the way he shows up fully in everything he does. I resonate with people who share the wins as well as the losses, right? If somebody is just, all they do is talk about how phenomenal their life is and they're not showing, and hear my heart, like, I don't want to hear that somebody's had tragedy necessarily, but it's okay to say, hey, I did this and it didn't work the way I thought. And here's why, but here's what I learned from it. I'm this big proponent of showing up. And so that's where I connect with people. So Adam he's been a phenomenal blessing in my life and someone I'm grateful to call a friend and consider a mentor. I mean, I did from day one, but it's just now I pay him as a coach because it's that great. And it's he and Tony Tiefenbach. They're just phenomenal people.
Being blessed with leaders in our lives through a coaching relationship or friendship cannot be undervalued. And I think sometimes as we get busy and we're going through our daily life, it's so important to take a step back and acknowledge those people who we may have met just coincidentally at a conference or at some kind of event that have now become those people that we look to for inspiration, that we look to for guidance. And what I really love about one of the things you just shared, Kim, was that you have seen Adam go from point A to point T. In other words, you've seen his journey and it hasn't been all roses. He hasn't just won championship game after championship game after championship game. There have been some significant losses along the way. And that's what makes, in my opinion, too, a really great coach. Someone who's unafraid to bear the failures, that's unafraid to say, guys, I went this direction and whoa, it was a disaster. But I'm living to tell the story. That's powerful. And I'm really glad to hear that had somebody like him be so influential in your own journey. And speaking of a failure, let's get into the part of the show I call Move the Chains. And for people who know and love football, Move the Chains is really the bulk of the game. The kickoff happens, whistle blows, and now anything is possible, no matter how great your game plan, no matter how many hours of video and film you have watched of the other team. The fact of the matter is, it is a new day and a new game. Tell us about a time, Kim, when you found yourself either playing out of position or you were doing what you do now and you fumbled the ball, so to speak, you got sacked, you caught the ball and then ended up running it into the other person's end zone.
I love that terminology.
What caused that to happen and how did you recover?
Yeah, if only every day could be like that, the catch, right? That 49er Dwight Clark catch, if only. I'm like, I don't follow a lot of college ball, but I follow the Niners.
Sure.
Anyways, so, what's funny is I would have to say, and this is, I've been doing a lot of reflection on the last, because it's weird. It was March, it was 7 years for me that I've been doing this. And I thought, you know what? The first 5 years, I was fumbling all the time. And I'll tell you, the one thing that completely shifted it, and I'll give you a concrete example, but the one thing that shifted it was 2 years ago. I said, that's it. I'm going to show up as myself. I'm done. It's all about showing up now, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever. And my business took off, right? Because I got really clear that, so when we talk about mentors, like to the fumbles, Adam wasn't the first person I hired. When I first started this, I found this internet marketing coach, and that was kind of how I got into this. I was listening to, it was a Mark Victor Hansen speaking empire thing, right? In my car, driving, commuting. And this guy was on there, and I just don't want to give his name, but he was making money with AdSense, a whole bunch of stuff, right? And he was making a bunch of money. I'm like, what is this internet marketing thing? So I sign up with him when I make this leap into internet marketing and signed up with him. But it was one of those, find a niche that's popular, create a product and sell it. And that's just not, at this point in my business, I could do that, right? Because I understand enough about technology. Like I could have a new website up this afternoon. And so if I wanted to drive and test niche marketing and something in that arena, I could. But to start a business with something that means nothing to me, his recommendation at the time, my brother had owned a pet store, was really into saltwater fish and just had these beautiful aquariums. And he's like, oh, okay, well, go make a DVD on how to do this. And I was like, I don't like fish,
Mm-hmm.
And so And that was a $5,000 learning
Ooh, yeah.
investment. And at the time when you're getting starting out, that was huge. I pay my mentors a lot more than that now. That's just one example. I hired a couple other people. And the thing is, with hiring a coach and a mentor, you have to really, one thing I've learned about myself is sit still. Like if you're interested in doing something or stepping into it, either one, know the person really well, see results, get to know them, whatever, sit on it for 24 hours, just get quiet and chill a little bit and say, look, is this really the right move for me? And the bigger my business gets, the more investments I make in terms of coaching and mentoring and whatnot. But I fumbled a lot those first 5 years. I would launch something because everybody else was doing it, but it didn't resonate with me. And so the biggest thing was me not showing up as myself. And let's talk about WordPress. Quick example here, right? So I always took this stance of, well, I'm not a coder, I'm not a programmer, self-taught, right? And so I was very apprehensive about, ignorance was bliss when I grabbed the domain name, the WordPress Chick, until WordPress told me I had to make it the WP Chick. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was just sharing what I was doing. As soon as I got into, maybe this isn't correct, or this isn't the technical way to do this, and so I played it really, really safe. And then I hit a point where I'm like, I don't care. They're not my audience. Coders and programmers are not my audience. God bless them. Thank God they do what they do. I hired a team. I focused on what made my heart sing, and that's when things took off. But I would tell you, it was like the first 5 years, look at it this way. I was showing up not to lose as opposed to showing up to win.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yes. That is one of my absolute favorite sayings is, are you playing not to lose or are you playing to win? Completely different approaches. Completely different approaches. And I really appreciate your transparency about 5 years you were fumbling. It wasn't just 2 months in the beginning or you had one bad game. You really had some pretty big boo-boos along the way, which in all fairness, if you are a small business owner or an entrepreneur, that first 5 years, they are going to be filled with struggle. And yeah, you probably had some success and won some games because you wouldn't still be doing what you're doing if you hadn't. But the reality is for listeners who are either contemplating moving into some kind of side hustle or making that leap from employee to entrepreneur, listen to what Kim is saying. And I would echo it 100%, is sit with it, really, really sit with it and think about what is it that you want out of it, whether you're going to just start something small, like put a product into the marketplace, which again, you and I both know, Kim, the barriers to entry to the marketplace are pretty much gone. Mm-hmm. However, there are still a lot of minefields that can blow up on that journey towards seeing whatever it is, whether it's an intangible type of thing like a coaching program, or it's an actual physical product like, the next doohickey that makes your life in the kitchen that much better. The journey is the same. The process is the same. There are a lot of different things that you have to go through and experience. And there's going to be some heartache along the way. There's going to be that walking into the locker room with your shoulders slumped and your head bowed and wondering what the heck just happened out there. But if you do show up as yourself and in your heart that this is what you're meant to do, it won't matter because you will get out there, you'll suit up the next day and you'll go for it, which is basically what you've done. And now look at you, you are sitting in a very powerful place as a small business owner, 7 years into the journey, actually in your 8th. And that's when things start to really happen. So what I'd love for you to share now, Kim, is from that vantage point, we both know that the world has changed very quickly in the last few years. We've witnessed it in our own businesses and as people. What specific shifts or changes have challenged or inspired you in terms of either as a business owner or just as a human being? And just comment on some of those that you've seen.
Wow, that's a great question. Here's the biggest thing. And there's a reason that are you familiar with Brené Brown?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Why do you think her videos and books on vulnerability have blown up? People are craving this genuine connection and to know, okay, I'm not the only one who effed that up, right?
Yeah.
that wow, okay, we all make mistakes. So for me, it's been sharing all of those things that I was afraid to share or to show up genuinely as myself, that it's all those things that I thought were going to be like, oh God, I'm going to get judged or something's going to come along with this. When I let go of that, things blew up because that's where the connections happen. And, it's something you need to baby step into. And I just did a post on this, and it's not published yet, but it's on why fake it till you make it is ass backwards. Because if you show up where you are, that's going to work better for you because you're not going to believe it. Like if you're like, hey, look at me, I'm this 6-figure a month earner, and you're not. And that's just an example, then people they're going to feel that energy behind it. And hear me out too. I'm not saying that a client hires you to do something and you're like, okay, thanks. I'm really excited you hired me. I've not done this before. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I mean that, look, because here's the other thing I didn't do for a long time, and that was promote myself. You know how many people unsubscribe when I offer something now? And I'm like, buy. You were never going to buy from me anyways. I created free content for 5 years, and I still create a ton of free content, but I run a business. It needs to make a profit. End of story. And I don't apologize for that anymore. But I think that the biggest shift for me has been choosing, and I know I keep driving this home, but it's that showing up piece, sharing the stuff that I felt shame around before. I don't anymore. At the same time, it's sharing the successes, right? And I jokingly refer to this as my recovering Catholic background. That I don't want to feel like I'm bragging, right? But you know what? My life is really good right now. And I am having some phenomenal experiences connecting with amazing people. And I want to own that because I'm not going to get to celebrate the next level if I don't celebrate where I'm at today. And again, so yeah, there's fun material things that happen all around this, but to be able to connect with people who daily, as an example, my mastermind group, we start those calls positive focus every single week, and I was mentioning to you before we started this interview that one of my dearest friends, like from high school, is my assistant now, and she works for me. She got teary with me one afternoon. She's like, I'm so proud of what you've built, and I'm so honored to be a part of this. And I feel grateful that I can contribute and help you, because most people in my life are kind of like, what do you do? What a gift, right? That I get to share this with somebody who is so near and dear to my heart. But none of this happened until I said, just be you. And I keep re-quoting this Seth Godin quote. And this to me is the game changer for every single person listening. And it's that you need to be willing to be a category of one. And it's kind of that Dr. Seussism where it's like, no one is youer than you. Or I misquoted that probably.
No, that's good. I love
right?
it. Yep.
But the point is, there's a boatload of people doing WordPress, right? And even with that, my business has evolved. Am I going to give up that brand and that audience? No. But that's not all I'm doing. And the bottom line is I get to choose. I get to choose who I work with. I get to choose who I talk to. I get to choose how I show up online. I get to choose. That was revolutionary for me. And I would find myself like I had a recently. Okay. So this is something that we learn and talk about forever, probably. And I'm sorry if I'm ranting, but I was having this pissing match with someone's VA, and it was over. And I was like, I caught myself because we're going back and forth in emails. She knows nothing about technology and WordPress. And they owed me like $300. And I caught myself and I said, Kim, you need to stop. You need to walk away. This is not worth it. You're becoming someone you don't want to be. This is not how you choose to show up in the world. Every ounce of energy and second you put into this is taking away from somebody else that you can serve and another way that you can show up. And I was like, done. I stopped the conversation. I said, we're done. I wish you the best of luck. Bye. That was it. And I was like, wow. Like, you know what I'm saying? That choice thing is so huge too. You get to choose. You get to choose who you call back. You get to choose who you email back. And I don't mean to be dismissive or flip about it, but at the end of the day, no one's putting a gun to your head to do this business.
That's right. That's right. And thank you again for being so transparent about what it's really like. Stepping into your power is something that you mentioned earlier doesn't always come in the beginning. When we start a new venture, there's just so many unknowns and there's a lot of innocence and naivete. And the only way we can learn is through making mistakes. And yet most people are petrified of looking dumb or failing or whatever because of the shame culture that is beat into everyone, whether it's through your religious upbringing or it's just regular school or the house, your parents. And that's going back to what Brene Brown talks so much about is the vulnerability piece. It's okay to open yourself. And once you've achieved that level of self-acceptance and the Dr. Seuss-iness of it, which I love, then it doesn't matter what people say because the people who are casting out those disparaging comments or the trolls online I remember when I got my first really nasty comment on my blog, I celebrated. I said, I've arrived.
I'm totally big. Yeah.
Somebody doesn't like what I wrote. Hallelujah. And again, we are not in the business. None of us are in the business of pleasing everybody. That's not what I signed up for when I became an adult and started forging my own path. I'm out to serve, just like you. I'm out to make an impact in the world through what I was made to do. There will be people that receive that, and there will be people that reject that. And that's okay. And that's really what becoming a more self-actualized human being is. Again, whether you work for somebody else, this kind of thinking, this mindset about choice really is a universal type of thing. It doesn't matter if you have a boss or you are your own boss. The fact is, it's how you show up. I love that word. It's, again, my whole theme of playing your position. You've got to show up every day and play your position. And if it's not working, then find a different position that does. And again, no one is holding a gun to your head. No one is holding a gun to your head, no matter what you're doing. And that's an illusion that a lot of people, they'll start making excuses. Oh, but it's like, nope, nobody's telling you have to drive the car that you're paying $500 a month or whatever.
Totally.
No one's telling you have to live in that neighborhood, in that house. No one's telling you that you have to shop at these stores or eat this kind of food. No one is telling you that. No one. You are making that choice. You are making that choice. And I'm not I'm not putting down those things. I mean, believe me, I like nice things too, but it's a choice. It's a choice, and then own it.
That's just it. And how many times do people say, oh, well, I shouldn't do this because, I don't want, they don't reward themselves.
Right.
It's where I was mentioning Adam, he had his Tesla delivered in December,
Wonderful.
Right?
He earned it.
He earned it. And but at the same time, it's like, it doesn't, I've learned also that, there's such a difference between doing the work and working hard, right? Because God, my parents are amazing. Love them to death. My dad's a retired police officer, but we were different generation too. It was work hard, work hard, work hard. And so, my brother and sister and I have these amazing work ethics, and that's great, but you can also work smart. And when I show up, I can easily put in just crazy hours with what I'm doing. And I know myself, when I have sort of that inspired action and the momentum's kicking in, I'm just going to go till I crash. That's just how I work. And that's fine, because I've set my life up in a way that come Friday, if it's 11 o'clock, I can just check out. Right. But then I'm also the same person who's like, ooh, it's Saturday. I can create a blog post. Nobody's going to be bugging me. Right. But the thing is, it's showing up and doing the work too, and my kids, it used to make them crazy, this whole choice thing, when I'm like, well, you can choose to be in a bad mood or not. Yep. And they friggin' hated it. But I also learned, right? When I lost my husband, I found an amazing therapist who has become like this life mentor to me now. I mean, I literally drive 3 hours because she moved out of the area to go see her. And I sit with her for 3 hours and we talk, and then I drive home. And it's a gift I give to myself, because she's also been an entrepreneur and done some phenomenal things and has this massive belief in me and everything that I've done. And that's partly why I'm here too. So, and that's an investment I continue to make in myself, but this choice piece, like you were talking about excuses, so many people do that. And having worked with coaching clients now, and I know that you do that too. And let me ask you this. Have you ever seen yourself in them? So I'll see somebody doing something. I'm like, God, you're totally where I was 3 years ago. And I can guide them and give them the direction, but I can't make them show up.
That's right.
Right. And so I've had people that have been wanting to launch a podcast for a year and a half. I'm like, I promise you that just because you hit publish does not mean you're going to be flooded. So just do it, right? It's those baby steps into all of this. And so showing up it's kind of twofold. It's bringing that vulnerability piece, but it's also showing up and doing the work.
It is.
And, creating the blog post. And there's this guy, I love him to pieces, in our mastermind. His name is Garrett J. White. And if anybody Googles him, you'll see what I mean. He is so in your face. He swears. He's got a podcast in the Christian section, probably the only explicit one, right? But he did this great video recently where he got in front of people because he had launched the podcast, and then somebody was like, well, where was bitching at him because he hadn't published a new one. He had a bunch of stuff going on, and he got on camera and said, and I won't swear here, but he was like, F you. I don't owe you more free content. If that's something I give. It's value I give. Is it going to come back? Absolutely. But, thank you for contacting me. But guess what? F you. I don't owe you that. This entitlement thing. It was this whole video. And is that the way I would do something? Not necessarily, but Garrett does not apologize and shows up And he has a phenomenal business because of it, because his people resonate with him. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I don't even know where I was going with that whole rant.
No, it's great. And it reminds me really quickly. And then I want to take the ball into the end zone because we've been in the red zone for a while. But just really quickly, Dave Ramsey just recently published a post in response to critics. He and his wife a couple of years ago built a magnificent home, 12,000 square foot home in Tennessee. And he was chastised by a lot of people because he really promotes frugality and budgeting and everything. But his response was so well thought out. And it was similar to what you just shared. It's that, listen, I don't owe you anything. No one asked you. You're not on my payroll. This is really none of your business. I share what I share because it helps people. And if it's not helping you, some people get it and some people don't. And he was the first to admit, I'm still making mistakes, but I'm doing this. What I do is for the kingdom. Everything he does is through the kingdom. You know, that's what he believes. He's a solid Christian man. And whether you like him or not, regardless, he's going to stand in his power and say, I give and I serve, and I use what God has given me to deliver good things to this world. And if you don't like it, then go somewhere else. It's okay that you have a choice. You have a choice.
Right? It's that choice thing again.
It's choice thing again. So speaking of choice, I know every team that is on the field, if it had their way, would choose a touchdown every minute. So, Kim, you are in the red zone and there are less than 30 seconds left on the clock. You are down by 4 points. It's third down and it is now or never. Tell us a story about a time when you overcame this obstacle and ran the ball into the end zone for the game-winning touchdown.
It would be the podcast, but I'll tell you, one of my most popular episodes, it might be episode 4, but I talked about getting fired from a job that I loved and the shame and horror around that and sharing that. And I got a little bit weepy and talking about something that was so painful and I attached so much shame to. All it did was endear me to my listeners and my audience. And so that was really a huge catalyst. So I'd already decided to show up, but it was like, okay, the sky didn't fall. You know, you're all good. Kids are healthy. Still got the house. Just go. Now it's game on. And so, you know, that it all comes down to showing up, Mary Lou. I am so redundant with that. I know, but everything in life comes down to showing up. Be present wherever you are, no matter what you're doing, your kids, your family, your business. It's about showing up in business and life.
It absolutely is. And I'm going to use that as that's the theme of the show today. That is your key offensive strategy. Is listeners, you've got to show up. If you're not showing up, you've got to ask yourself why. What is it? What is keeping you from playing full out, of getting on that field, of suiting up every day and approaching whatever it is you're doing with a sense of purpose and passion? And not that it's not always going to be glamorous and wonderful, but even in the hard times when you are connected to that core position that you know you're meant to do, every day is a good day. Every day is a good day. So Kim, as we bring this out of what has been an amazing conversation, what is the best way for people listening today to connect with you online?
You can go to thewpchick.com. All my social media is there. The blog's there. The podcast is there. Everything I do is kind of housed and stems from the WP Chick. You can also type in the Wordpress Chick. It's just a forward, but thewpchick.com.
Fabulous. And so listeners, you know that all of the things that Kim has shared with us today, her website, thewpchick.com, will be over at the Shownotes page at playyourpositionpodcast.com/Kim. That's KIM. And Kim, again, it has been such an honor to have you share your story today on the Play Your Position podcast. I wish you great things, many more touchdowns moving forward.
Thanks so much for having me, Mary Lou. It was a blast.
Hey team, did you know that one of the fastest ways to boost your credibility in the marketplace is with a book? That published authors have a far greater chance to land speaking gigs, charge higher fees, not to mention getting bragging rights and making a lifelong dream come true? These days, the barriers to getting a book written and published have pretty much disappeared, with on-demand publishing platforms like Amazon's Kindle and CreateSpace making it super easy. I know, I've written 3 of my own and am working on my 4th. The truth is, despite how easy it is to get published today, there are still a lot of minefields to step through on the way to getting that first box of books delivered to your house. That's why for a limited time, I am offering an exclusive opportunity for listeners of the Play Your Position podcast to connect with me privately and discuss your book project. If this sounds like you, head on over to playyourpositionpodcast.com/book and follow the instructions on the page. Again, that's playyourpositionpodcast.com/book. See you there.
Thanks for listening to the Play Your Position podcast, where your story matters and we make it count at MaryLouKaiser.com.